Hi everyone, welcome back to part 3 of Getting Started with Twisp. This is Mike from Twisp. We've just added an account and some transactions in our previous video. Now we're going to want to dive into Twisp's calculation engine. Twisp has two primary ways of achieving calculations. We're going to cover the first method, which is using triggers. Let's first take a look at our use case. So we have this account for Giovanni Medici, and you can notice this balance is still zero even though there has been 3 transactions. So what we're going to do is we're going to use triggers and make sure that this balance accurately reflects our transactions. So if you're following along in the docs, it's under the Getting Started, Define a Trigger section. What we want to do essentially is whenever a transaction is inserted or posted into our account, that we update an account balance. So to set this up, make sure you have the example ledger that we've had in Deploy Your Resources. And to take a look, what we're adding is this trigger section. So it's connected to an event, which is the onInsert event. This position all means we're going to go back and play against all the records. We're not just going to attach this trigger to new records. We're actually going to play back. Next, the execution step is we're going to update on the account ledger this balance field. It's going to take the amount on the transaction and then add it with the balance. So this is the little code snippet that you can add directly to your bank.yaml file. It's right under the transaction setting. I'm going to go ahead and add it myself and then redeploy it. Go ahead and do that. I'll see you all in a few minutes. All right, I'm back. I have added the triggers to my ledger. So let's reinsert all of our data. I actually wiped out my ledger when I did my migration. For you, when you do it, it will not remove the transaction or account, but I'm just going to replay everything. So there's this cool feature in the console where if you click on the history, you'll see all the previous GraphQL calls you've made. You can go ahead on and click them and then hit run. And now we should be able to get the account. And there we go. We have our $2.50 total. And if I add another transaction, so let's say I add $1.75, and then I add let's just keep adding some. I do get query, you'll see we'll have 700. So our trigger is working. We've managed to add our first calculation. And keep in mind, this is just the simplest calculation we can create. On this do execute portion of our triggers, we can do anything we want. We can read data, we can write data, we can make external calls to other services. So if you have a specific value you want to ship over to some ML model and receive some decisioning, this is one way of using triggers. And you can see when we get the get account, our number is higher than this because we added more triggers, but it's essentially proving out the same thing. We've managed to attach our trigger. All right, next, because Twisp is immutable, we keep a history of every state change within the ledger. So this amount value, you can tell, is actually, it seems to be not immutable. Uh, the state is constantly changing as we add or perhaps even remove transactions. So how we look at the history of a particular record is what we're going to cover next. So first, let's go ahead and change a transaction that we've previously added. So I'm going to go ahead and let's actually insert a transaction real quick to get its ID. There's our transaction ID. We'll just go ahead and paste it down here. Transaction. Oops. Have to put in a comma here. There we go. So I just wanted to put this in here so we have it. So let's mutate this transaction. And what it's going to do is it's going to update this timestamp to April 28th. You can see the timestamp that we've manually set within our variables was April 27th. But we're going to go ahead and update that. I'm going to go ahead and paste our transaction here, and then we'll use our context.vars. Or actually, I'm just going to make it easier. I'm just going to copy and paste it directly. And hit run. There we go. So now we've gone ahead, and with this mutation, let me close that history section. With this mutation, we've updated this transaction that we just posted for 75 cents, and we've updated it to be immediately on the 28th instead of the 27th. In this example, we've updated a different transaction, but that's okay. So now let's grab the history. So there's always a history parameter associated with every record in the ledger. And let's see what that looks like. So I'll go ahead. Oh, there's a little copy button here we could use as well. Paste that. Take our transaction ID for the example that we're working with and hit run. And here we can see in the history parameter of the transaction, there are two sequence numbers, and for sequence 1, the posted on was this value, and for sequence 2, it was shifted to this value. And here we can see the exact same result that we intended. So now let's take a look at a more important history. And this is the history of our account balance. This is probably more relevant. So when we run our get account, this time we're going to also request in GraphQL the history balance as well as the sequence. So if I go ahead and paste our query, here we can see our balance growing with each subsequent transaction. So with transaction 1 down here, unfortunately these are out of order, but with our transaction 1, we can see it was $1.25. Our balance initiated with 0. It added the $1.25, then it added the 50 cents, then it added the 75 cents, and so forth. And so that's how we get the history of our records. Well, congratulations. That's it for the getting started section. I'll probably make a module or another video about workflows, which is the second way of creating calculations that we're really excited about. And it's for more complex workflows, as the name implies. It's not just something as simple as just triggers. But thank you so much for watching these videos, and let us know if you have any questions.